Namaskar, this is Bhargav. Welcome to Tit Bits on Business and Finance with me. In a recent conference, Mr. Rajiv Kumar, a top economist and Vice Chairman of NITI Ayog, the top think tank of the Government of India, he remarked that never before in the past 70 years has there been such an economic slowdown in India's history. He also said that the liquidity crisis is so bad that lenders are simply unwilling to lend to businesses and businesses are surviving today by relying on cash. He made 3 points, and the first one he said was that there is an overall threat to the financial system such that nobody is willing to trust the other. He said that corporates are sitting on cash, unwilling to lend to each other, and because of that, there is a severe liquidity crisis. The second point that he made was that because of the onset of demonetization, GST, and the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, IBC as we call it, the economic situation in India has changed. He said that these have completely changed the ground rules such that because of demonetization, GST, and IBC, the cash that was in the system, the floating cash that was sloshing around, has come down considerably, thus implying the kind of liquidity crisis that we face today. He said that the government will need to initiate extraordinary measures in order to tackle this slowdown and revive the economic growth. He further said that unless these kind of measures are not taken in order to allay the apprehension of the private sector investment will not get a boost and it will continue to languish. These statements of Rajiv Kumar are some kind of an admission of sorts according to us. But then, with the kind of stress that is there in the Indian economy, sector after sector, which is now even seeping into the services sector, with that being so evident and so visible, what he says today is a very obvious statement. He is making a statement about something which is so visible that it is now not easy to ignore either. This statement that he now makes is a belated statement and he gets no marks for it. In reality, this statement should have been made at least a few quarters ago, when at that point of time the economic slowdown was still a problem. It had not become a kind of a crisis that we consider it to be now. It had not become a situation what he calls of the worst slowdown in 70 years. He should have recognized this, spotted it at that point of time and pointed it out in his capacity as being the Vice Chairman of NITI Ayog. If he had done that, the problem would not have become a crisis that we now face at the moment. At a time when this crisis was building up, at that time, politically, the government was not willing to accept that there is a problem. It did not deem it convenient to accept that there is such a problem, and because of that, it never recognized it, it never came up with any kind of measures to tackle it. At this moment, with a very strong government having come back to power, it is very clear that the government is willing to accept this problem and this crisis, and thus measures have been initiated by the government at the moment in order to tackle the slowdown in growth and also to tackle the liquidity crisis that we face. But as I said, this should have been seen much earlier. According to us, there have been a lot of visible indicators for the past many quarters showing that India was in a slowdown mode and a liquidity crisis was clearly in the offing. But as I said, for political reasons, these were just not recognized. These symptoms which were there and which, if they had been taken earlier, would not have got us to this kind of a serious situation, never got recognized. And what are they? The first one, according to us, the slowdown in the GDP growth rate. The slowdown in the GDP growth rate became very clear after the GST came in. It was a complicated GST that came after a draconian demonetization, and quarter after quarter thereafter, India's GDP has been slowing down. And despite that, the government did not recognize it. The government kept saying that India continues to be the fastest growing large economy in the world. That did not help. And if this was accepted, it was in mid-2017 that the government would have said there is a slowdown which needs to be tackled. They overlooked it. The second one is Right since 2014 onwards, private sector investment in new projects has been languishing. When private sector investment in new project languishes, does not take off, it means addition to growth does not take place. Addition to taxes does not take place. Addition to jobs does not take place. And this has been visible right since 2014. The government ignored it. Unemployment is yet another issue which was very much there right since 2015 onwards. The government never accepted it because it would go contrary or it would accept failure on one political commitment that Mr. Modi had made in 2014 elections, which is creation of jobs. So the government never accepted it. It came up with doctors' statistics to say that all is well. But job scenario was bad. Unemployment was rising. And this indicator was there right since 2015 onwards. We are in 2019 today. Consumer demand started dipping because of this. With unemployment being around, household income dips and consumer demand started languishing. This came to surface in the quarter ended December 2018. That was a worrisome moment, but the government did not recognize it or accept it because elections were on the cards. The next one has been the stress in the rural and MSME sectors. This has been there right since 2015. It's not a new phenomena. It went unrecognized. NPA crisis. The NPA crisis came to the BJP government as a legacy from the UPA government. But then it has been unresolved right since 2014. And one offshoot of that has been that bank credit has also not taken off. It's only when an economy grows that bank credit also grows in tandem with it. The NPA crisis, according to us, has not yet reached the peak because NPAs in sectors like the Mudra loans has not yet been recognized, and the unresolved banking crisis and bank loans not taking off only meant an economic slowdown, a liquidity crisis. Along with that, of course, came the collapse of large NBFCs that only compounded the liquidity crisis that we face at the moment. Corporate profits started dipping because of this, and this dip became very evident from mid-2018. Even this indicator was not picked up. And along with this dip in corporate profits was, corporates have been downsizing, they have been down leveraging, they have been getting debt out, they have been selling assets because the assets are not productive or profitable enough in order to service and repay debts. This sign or this indicator again was ignored. Tax collection targets have not been met. They were clearly not met for financial year 2018-19, and according to us, they were also not met for financial year 17-18 because the tax collection for 17-18 had a bit of a boost on account of demonetization and also on account of fudging of data. So for 2 consecutive years, tax collection targets were not met. That only indicated a slowdown. The next indicator that the government ignored was core sector and manufacturing sector growth has been listless, it has been sluggish. Again, an indicator of a slowdown. Make in India was announced by Mr. Modi sometime in 2015 and it never took off. That also meant that growth has not been taking place. One of the factors that even Mr. Rajiv Kumar himself mentions is demonetization and GST and their twin effect. Demonetization was announced in November 2016 and GST came in middle of 2017. Their impact on growth and liquidity has been crippling. As Mr. Rajiv Kumar himself said, because of these two measures, the cash in the system that was sloshing around came down considerably, only impacting growth. And finally, corporate frauds and failures have been rising. That is a sure shot indicator of a slowdown. And this has been happening for the past couple of years consistently. These, according to us, are the dots which were visible on the horizon. These factors or these dots or these indicators, they only need to be connected and the government would have seen the large picture. And the large picture would have been a slowdown which needs to be corrected. But the government never connected the dots because it was politically convenient for it not to do so. And because of that, it never connected or saw the large picture itself. And thus, a problem became a crisis. If Mr. Rajiv Kumar today admits this kind of a slowdown and a liquidity crisis, then it is an admission which is too late, and it only indicates incompetence and failure on the part of the government. And it also means that if the government fails to connect the dots and see the large picture, then probably what it needs is a full-time economics minister in the cabinet who at least reads the dots, connects them, and tells the government, oh, what is in the pipeline, so that problems are tackled before they become a crisis. And that's what they did not do this time. This is Akhilesh Bhargav signing off till we meet again. Namaskar.